will tell you, I was the mean girl back in the day because that's how I was taught, right? Like if I didn't make you jump through 20 hoops, you weren't going to be good enough, right? Like we now need to find perfection, and you guys' life isn't perfect. So I'm saying all that, hoping that our presentation will be up here soon. But also, just remember, wherever you're at, like our brains trigger to the negative, right? That won't work. That won't work because of this. Or remember that one time that this happened, like in 1990. No, just like let it go, you guys. Let it go. And I will also share with you that one of my first shelter consults I ever did was right here in Indianapolis. So I feel like I'm kind of coming home. Like y'all don't know that you know me, but like I feel like I'm one of you, right? So way back in the day, that's when I met Sherry Storms, and I met Janet when she was at the Face Shelter, at the Spay Neuter Clinic, and Indy Humane. Like, you guys have a lot of great stuff happening, not only in this town, but all across the state. So you have a lot to be proud of. Now, do we have any cat-only folks here in the room? Okay. But for the rest of you, you're handling dogs or dogs and cats, right? Awesome. Because I feel like these days, it's hard to believe, but dogs are really our problem these days, right? Back in the day, like when I first got involved, it was all cats. Like so many more cats were being, euthanized in shelters, like cats were our problem. And now today, you guys, like we can hardly find cats in, like for my rescue to pull, we're having a hard time finding them. Thank you. Here we go, perfect. Okay. So I do feel like times have changed and dogs are really our issue. So I don't know if anybody can relate to this, but the common things we're seeing now, everywhere we go, shelters are over capacity, right? Reunification, which is the goal of bringing stray dogs into our shelters to get them back to their owner, it's just not happening as much as we'd like to. I think the national average is somewhere between 22 and 30%. So you guys, the majority of the time, we're not getting these dogs back to their families. Large dogs, you guys, we love big dogs, but they are harder to place, right? We've got housing restrictions. Big dogs have big litters, so then we have 14 more dogs to find homes for when they give birth. It's hard to get spay neuter for big dogs, right? So then they are having those litters coming into the shelter. We have increased length of stay, and the longer we hold on to them, you guys, mental decline of these pets. I had a shelter recently tell me, like, the new animals that come in, we can move them so fast because they haven't gone crazy, right? And they haven't shown us all their bad behaviors. Because when they come in, they're like, wow, I'm at this camp, it's great, I'm having fun, and then I move on to my new place. But for those dogs that are there for hundreds and hundreds of days, sometimes years. Now listen, I'm not trying to say put a limit if a dog is otherwise happy and mentally stable, right? But the thing is, we need to kick up our game to get them into a home. We need to look at other ways. And then of course, we're seeing a lot of disease outbreaks. So I work at the vet school at UF. One of my bosses, Dr. Cinda Crawford, she's an infectious disease specialist. She's working with shelters all across the country that are dealing with distemper, with pneumovirus, with strep so. Like these are highly contagious diseases that will shut down your shelter. And a lot of this could have been prevented if we had moved animals along. Now again, not blaming any shelter, but just saying things have to change. We can't keep drinking from the fire hose and expecting good things to happen, right? We have to change. On top of that, we've got veterinary and vet tech shortages, right? If you guys have vets and techs, treat them well because they are worth their weight in gold. Also just staffing issues. Like I go to a lot of shelters and they are supposed to have 10 staff that day, but maybe only 4 came to work. And listen, life is hard these days and we do have, illnesses and we have things happening, our cars break down, so we have to anticipate that, which is another reason why we need to make sure our capacity is in line. I don't know if any of you guys experience this, but a lot of places we go, we have vocal advocates who are supposed to be our partners, and they're supposed to be helping us, but instead, they're the problem, right? They are crucifying us when we're just doing the best we can, and even when we're doing everything perfect, it's not good enough, right? And for some reason, that squeaky wheel, man, they catch catch the attention of everybody. So again, we have to somehow try to overcome that. And then because of all of this compassion fatigue, you guys, like, and decision fatigue, we know what we need to be doing, but gosh, if I have to make one more decision in a day, it's just gonna throw me over the edge. So we know that these are universal challenges, but also in order to know how to help ourselves, we need to know what our status is, right? So we need to figure out what is our capacity, right? So we can't just say we're full and we're busy. We need to say, like, holy smokes, maybe our capacity at this place is 100 and we're dealing with 300. So now we have to figure out something about those 200, right? And remember, capacity, if any of you sat in Dr. Curry's talk, capacity is not just about the number of kennels you have. It's also about the number of people you have to care for those. So if our capacity is 100 and we're supposed to have, say, 10 people, but only 4 show up, guess what? We are working well above our capacity when we don't have enough people. And again, I love Dr. Curry's talk, if you guys were in it. It talks about when we bring an animal into our shelter, whether you are nonprofit or municipal, you are responsible for that animal's care and welfare. So it's not just we're gonna shove you in a crate because this is the best we could do, right? Like, that's not right, you guys. So at some point we need to tell our city and county officials, our board, if we're a nonprofit, whoa, this is too much. We cannot provide adequate care when we have so many. So remember, we could always, there's information online about how to do capacity calculating for staff and for kennels, but keep in mind, it's about appropriate housing. So just because you have some crates in the garage, that is not appropriate housing for animals, right? So we have to look at not just the number of physical kennels, we have to look at which are the appropriate kennels. How can we make them appropriate if we don't already have it? So for dogs, for example, double-sided housing is ideal. It could be indoor-outdoor, it could be indoor-indoor, but the whole point is one dog gets both sides. Not you shut down the divider, you put dogs on both sides, and then you double them up, and then you triple them up, because remember, that's what's gonna lead to disease and create so much more work for us, right? Medicating, trying to control this, and ultimately, sadly, in a lot of shelters right now, they are having to euthanize because of this. And it's like, not their fault, right? But the more you keep bringing animals into that situation, you're just perpetuating that vicious cycle. If you guys aren't familiar with heartspeak.org, they are a great organization that gives you talking points and graphics about how to relay this information to your community, to your leaders, without sounding crazy and without creating like hysteria. So that's a really good resource for you. But again, we need to know what our capacity is, to know what do we need to ask for help and what do we need to do to, like, what are our goals? Population management is another one that's really, really critical, and you guys might be like, yeah, we do that, once a week or once a month. You guys, we need to be on top of our population management every single day. Like, depending on whatever size your shelter is, you should have either a point person or a team of people who are constantly knowing, why are you here? What do you need? What is the holdup? Hey, you were supposed to get picked up from rescue yesterday. Let's call them. Hey, you just need to go to medical. Let's get you on that list. So the whole goal, remember, is shortest length of stay. Think of it. Your shelter, your facility, even if you're private, your foster base, your foster homes are like the Ritz. You don't want them living there forever, right? It's a short stay. You come in, you get your medical, you get your little spa treatment, you have fun, and you get out to the next family. So we want to treat our shelter space, our foster home space, whatever space, as this quick turnaround spot. If any of you are not using shelter software yet, you really should. It makes life so much easier. But if you are using it, you really need to know how to use it, right? I go to a lot of shelters where they have software, but then they also have like all these Excel lists and all these Word documents, and they're writing sticky notes everywhere. And it's like, you guys, we don't have time, right? We're busy. We didn't have 6 people show up today, so now we're all having to do quadruple work. So we have to let technology work for us And again, the whole thing about population rounds when you're doing it is not solving the problem for that animal when you're in front of them, but it's tasking. Hey, this one needs medical, let's put them on the medical list. Hey, this one needs rescue, let's get our rescue person to follow up. And the name of the game is, like, what do you need? How can we get it for you? And move them along. So it's so funny in animal control when we call ourselves that, because we have no control, right? It's in a lot of places are actually changing their name, which is fine, like Animal Resource Center, Animal Services, because we don't have control. There are some things that can be in our control, but there's a lot of things that aren't. So I live in Florida, and we have hurricane season, right? June to November. You guys have tornado season. Listen, I was talking in Tennessee last year, and I was actually talking about this, and I thought, hurricanes don't come to Tennessee. And guess what? Helene said, hold my beer. I'm coming, right? And then sure enough, holy smokes, the whole, eastern Tennessee, western North Carolina. So those things are out of our control. But when they happen, what are we going to do? How do we respond when we're already full? Because we've not been managing our population, right? And even, again, I love the foster-based rescues because you guys are lifesavers. You need to be thinking about this too. You need to have that sense of urgency because you are the lifeline to animals that are in shelters who are at risk. So we definitely don't have, we can't predict when we're gonna have fires or natural disasters. We often don't even know about these large-scale seizures. Like, I am sure that if you work with animal services in your town, that they are keeping you abreast of things. But how many times have they just been like, hey, we're on our way with 58 dogs, or 400 rabbits, or 200 cockfighting roosters, wow, what are we supposed to do, right? Like, we can't, that's tough. So there's also, our unplanned staff shortages. Like, you could have everything totally perfect, but if half your staff is out sick, then how are you supposed to care for them? So these are the things you cannot plan for, but you should have some backup plans. You should be thinking about what do we do when things like this happen? And then also, when things like this happen, transparency, you guys, we need to tell our public, we need your help. This is what's going on. And I know, remember, those squeaky advocate voices who are supposed to be your friends, and instead they're like, you suck because you didn't do X, Y, or Z. You got, and I hope we're not being recorded. I'm sorry for saying that word. But keep in mind, those people are detracting from the good that you are trying to do. You didn't create this problem, but we do need our public to help us. So for example, like there are shelters right now that are having to close their intake because they have a distemper outbreak, or they're having to close intake because of strep zo. You guys, it is not responsible to continue to bring animals into an environment where we are going to give them exposure to a deadly disease and they might die from it. Now, do we still need to make up plans for those essential intake? Our dangerous dogs are medically sick and injured? Yes. But we need to be thinking outside the box for those. Like, how can we partner with an off-site location or with a neighboring shelter or a vet or something? Like, we have to be thinking alternative plans. And then, again, we want to communicate to the public, but without causing panic, okay? So, but we also need to stop making it hard for people to help you. So sometimes shelters are like, hey, we just got in this case of 100 dogs, we need to move 100 dogs into foster. But first you must take a 6-week course online. It's only offered on the 3rd Thursday of every opposite month. It's like, no, you guys, we need help now. And trust that people are good. When you ask for help and people show up to help, let them help you. We do this a lot in our shelters in Florida. You probably do it here too, but like at the holidays where we do an empty the shelter so that animals get to spend the holidays in a home, and then the staff have less animals to care for, so they can also spend time at home with their family, right? And we just let people show up, we give them the dog or cat, we give them the supplies, and we trust that they're gonna take care of them, and guess what, they do. And so many times that leads to adoptions, either by them or their friends and family, or because they've spread the word about how amazing this pet is, that we didn't know that this dog loved to cuddle with kids, or that, you know, he knows all these tricks. Because when you're in a shelter, you guys were busy, and going back to that 15 minutes of care per animal, I think I'm pretty fast and efficient, but I can't do anything in 15 minutes, right? I mean, like, think about it. If you're just like, clean feed, water, you know, and you're doing this for all these animals, how do you really know enough about them? And then yet, when people come in, we're like, no kids, no cats, no dogs, no men, no women, no old people, no young people, right? Like, we're judging people out of helping our animals. Now, granted, there are going to be some dogs who will tell you they do not want to live with cats. And we're not saying set them up for failure. But we also need to just make it easier for people to help us and to adopt. So remember, more people do want to help. You are always going to have those critics out there, and all we have to do is just, if you know you're doing the right thing, let's just drown them out with positive messaging, right? And hopefully your supporters will all speak up. And, you know, ultimately in my town, our county shelter cannot, like, argue with people, right, when they make their comments. They have to leave them up there. But guess what? Our volunteers and our adopters will be like, you're wrong, and why don't you, like, show up or shut up? And they can say that, right, because they're not hired by the city or county. But just remember, like, we have to get our messaging out there. So, like, in this situation, this was a shelter that has 196 kennels. But at this time, they had a 53 case dog seizure case that came in. Well, they already had 300 dogs in their kennels. In 200 kennels, you guys, 196 kennels. They had 310 dogs, and they had 76 dogs in foster. Where the heck were they supposed to put these dogs? They couldn't leave them, right? It wasn't a situation where they could work with the people, and because these were extreme medical cases, under-socialized. So again, you have to tell your public, this is why we need help, but then let them help you, right? So they ended up doing a really good job getting animals into foster, getting neighboring shelters around the state to come in and help them, and they've repaid that kindness for others when it's happened to them. Okay, so what do we do when we're in this pickle, right? So we need to, again, figure out where should we be, where are we at, and then how can we tackle, you know, what do we need to do, set our goals, and they need to be realistic. But the thing is, ask your community for help, and all of them, not just your 10 solid rock star foster people that you always work with. Like, we love them, but we need your 10 and 20 and 100,000 million people that live in your communities, right? Like in my town, we have 1 million people that live there. And I hear rescues sometimes say, we've saturated the market. I'm like, I handle 1,000 cats a year. I'm not saturated any market because there's 1 million people that live here, right? So even in a town, if you're in a small town, if you have 15,000 residents and you're handling 1,000 or 2,000 animals a year, it may seem like you've saturated your market, but you haven't, I promise you, because we have new people moving in, we have young people graduating to adulthood and getting their own space, getting their own pets. You know, pets do die, it's a cycle of life, right? So we have this constant need for pets to go into homes. And I think I saw the literature recently, like, for all the people that are acquiring new pets every year, if only a fraction of them adopted from shelters or rescues, we would all be sitting back having cupcakes, right? Like, we would be like, oh gee, what should we do with all our free time now, right? But you guys, we've made it so very hard. And I say we, because I was part of the Mean Girls Club too. Man, if I saw cigarettes hanging out of your purse, I'd be like, whoa, I don't want my cats to have lung cancer, you know, like secondhand smoke. I judged people out of adoptions, and it's embarrassing. But you guys, I didn't think of that on my own. I had mentors who mentored me that way. So that's why I'm saying, just kind of like keep this open mind, and it's okay. Like, I don't beat myself up, well, sort of, but I don't really beat myself up over what I did back then, because that's what I knew at the time. But now I know better, right? And so when, like, technology has changed, our ideas have changed, science, like, we've learned so many things, like in medical, that has changed. So just roll with it. getting, like running adoption promotions are so amazing. And it's wild to me sometimes when I go into shelters that have really high adoption fees. And again, you guys, if you have high adoption fees, don't be offended. But here's the deal. You have animals that are sitting in your shelter. You want them in homes. People like a bargain. Everybody likes a deal. Even people with billions of dollars, they want that deal. So the more we can generate excitement through fun, festive adoption promotions, it does not mean that that person cannot afford the pet or that they're gonna love it any less. And think about if you purchase a dog from a breeder, right, and you spent $5,000, and then next year you found a dog on the street and you took it in. So in a year from now, are we gonna look at the dog and go, I do love you better, $5,000 beauty queen, right? No, we're gonna love them equally because it doesn't matter how much we spent on them. So, adoption promotions are great. Ask yourself, ask the public for temporary fosters. Don't just limit it to your 10 rockstar fosters. We love them, but you're burning them out. Sometimes you can partner with local boarding facilities, doggy daycares. We've got a doggy daycare in our town that our volunteers are fundraising to send dogs to daycare. And then from daycare, they're getting adopted because people are watching them on the little live cam and they're seeing how great they interact, and people are they're just adopting them. It's fantastic. So also, spread the word. And here you guys can talk to Janet, but you have these statewide coalitions where you can spread your message and ask for help for your partners. And maybe not everybody can help, but maybe you can get 1 or 2 people to help, and maybe they can do 1 or 2 things, right? So together we can do things better than by ourselves. If you don't already have an MOU with an outside agency for disasters, you should really look into that because it's free to have this. They can help you in times of fire, flood, tornadoes, all those things. So like ASPCA, AIM, Code 3, I don't know anybody who wouldn't want to have that help because when disaster strikes, they're the ones who can fly the planes in with all the supplies, and they have the big donor base. So just something to think about if you are a shelter. As far as staffing goes, if you're a municipal shelter, go to your leaders and ask to borrow staff from other, listen, parks people, we love them, but they're not really busy every day, right? So they can come on over and help you walk dogs. There's other people that, in my city too, they will give you so much PTO if you volunteer at the shelter, right? So people are like, heck yeah, I want to get out of this office, quit doing my boring day job stuff and go walk dogs and hang out. So be creative, ask for help, when you do show up, let it actually work, right? If you have big corporations that want to come over, go on pack walks. They don't need to go through a 10-week course, I promise you guys. Everybody will stay safe, the animals will love it, just let people help you. As far as temporary housing needs go, we kind of talked about this. Sometimes you may have to look at off-site locations, like your fairgrounds, or and utilizing the Magnum kennels to give them actual space and not just crates. Listen, crates, when we're in a time of a crisis, we may need to just pop some up, but that's not for long stay living. And again, just making sure you're prepared. How many of you here do have a preparedness plan for if something happens? Do you have a disaster plan? I mean, one person, listen, 2 people, woo! Okay, good for you, and I get it. We are so busy, we don't have time to plan, but you guys, we really need to have these plans in place. This over here, this was a small nonprofit that had a contract with their county, and they made some leadership changes at the shelter, and what they didn't realize at the time is, first of all, they didn't have a plan in place. They just fired the director and the assistant director, and then half the staff said, well, we're out of here. And guess what? They had 200 animals in their shelter, and they had 3 people left to help them. So it was now what do we do? And so this board was oh boy, what do we do now? So again, we brought groups together. We did all the medical evaluations. Then we could tell our rescue partners, hey, these are healthy, sound animals. Can you pull? We facilitated 118 pets to get out of the shelter. We worked with the local spay neuter clinic. They went ahead with our interns and fixed 51 cats, and it brought it down to a manageable level so that as they were hiring new staff, like they could actually like train and learn what to do instead of just throwing someone in and being like, figure it out. So as far as your shelters go, whether you are with a contract or without a contract, we need to be focusing our resources on those who actually need it, right? So always, number one, are sick, are injured, are animals that have no other choices. For municipal shelters or for field services shelters, our safety cases, right? Our bite cases. We should not be letting dangerous animals roam our communities attacking children at the bus stop, right? So I feel like people these days, we've kind of gone from one extreme to the other. It's like, yes, we want our neighbor, our community to be a part of this solution. If you find a stray, you guys, 77% of the time, those dogs are within 3/4 of a mile from their home. Walk them around your neighborhood where you found them, right? Like, post them on Nextdoor, post them on Petco Love Lost. Do all those good things. But now, if it's a dog that's chasing kids down the street while they're riding their bicycles, or chasing you when you're coming to get your mail, that dog needs to be picked up and removed and handled appropriately. Like if they do know who the owner is and the owner can follow whatever rules to keep that animal in, great. But if not, we need to not leave those animals out there. So you need to be accessible. So look at your own organization. Are your hours convenient? I still see a lot of shelters that are only open till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That is not a shelter I could visit unless I was there on a consult, because we all work, right? So who can take off in the middle of the day to come to your shelter that's only open from 2 to 4 or has appointments? And I get it. Listen, if you want to offer appointments as like a VIP service, perfect. But life is hard, you guys. And even when I set appointments, sometimes I have a hard time keeping them because other things come up, right? So having flexibility for people to come in and out is really important. Also, making most every animal available is really important, because again, I go to shelters and say they have 100 animals, or 700, which is common. Very few are available and to be seen, and then people think, oh, you only have 12 animals here, you must be doing great. When really there's like 400 of them in the back that are not off their stray hold, or maybe they're in a medical status. You guys, unless they're dangerous or dying, they should be able to be seen, right? Because we need to start having a plan for these animals when they hit our door. So not 3 days down the road, 5 days down the road, 10 days down the road, depending on whatever your stray holds are. We need to be, the number one goal, I think, for dogs is going to be get them back to their owner, if they're stray, right? If we found them free roaming, the number one goal should be getting them back to their owner. If they were surrendered, what could we have done to help you make a direct placement so they didn't have to come into our shelter? And sometimes we do have to take them in. You guys, if somebody passes away or they get arrested and the dog is in the car with them, we have to bring them in. But again, it's setting them up for success and giving them what they need while they're in our care. Also, look at your own animals and figure out, do we have some in an unavailable status, and how long have they been in that status? Right? Because sometimes we just forget about them because we're busy, right? So I went into a shelter once where when you walk through adoptions, these dogs that were very reactive were like the first thing you saw, right? And they looked like they were trying to eat us. And then we go back, and then we're in like this bite quarantine area, and then there's this like beautiful, like yellow labby, teenager puppy type dog, and we're like, why is this dog here for 56 days? Guess what? He was supposed to be on the adoption floor, but when he came in, it was full, and then they just kind of forgot about him. For 56 days, you guys, and again, not blaming the staff, but at the same time, you guys, if we were doing population management, we'd be like, hey, you need to be up front. Let's find a space for you. Why don't we move one of these reactive dogs who's really stressed every time somebody walks in here? Let's not keep putting that dog in a stressful environment. Let's move him to a quiet spot, and let's put the dopey, happy, derpy boy in the first cage, right? So think about these things. Also, removing negative signage from your cages. I would ask you to walk into your shelter as if you know nothing and you've never been there before, or just have one of your friends who aren't in animal welfare come in. The things that we put on our cages, it's like, stop, don't look at me, no men, no kids, no whatever, no. And it's like, why do I want to adopt this animal? Like, hey, here's your next best friend, right? You guys, we do want to be transparent, but there's a difference between marketing an animal and counseling a person, right? So we don't start like, my dating profile doesn't say she's really crabby in the morning when she's hungry, or, like, here are all my negative traits. No, you guys, we're like, hey, I'm really friendly. I like to have fun. Let's go hiking, right? We don't start with, and she snores, and she's bratty, and so again, there's a difference between marketing and counseling. Also, let's try to get out of the habit of making animals rescue only. We love rescues, but you guys, rescues are us. We're just normal people, right? We don't have special skills. We don't have magical adopters who are any different from your adopters. They're normal people in our community, right? So now I get it. There are some rescues that can handle like medical fosters, or, like every Chihuahua I've ever adopted, which I did adopt a Chihuahua here in Indianapolis, was like, he was deemed rescue only, bad boy, bitey, but you know what, he wasn't. And again, when he got into a home environment, he was like, oh, I'm a cream puff. So yes, I do get the benefits of partnering with our rescue partners because they may have a quieter environment, less animals, but you guys, they are no different from us. So whenever we try to send all of our broken and bad behavior animals to our rescue partners, we're kind of setting them up for failure too, right? And then again, what do we hear? Rescues are full. Yeah, because we've stuck them with Cujo, right? Hoping that they're gonna have this magical adopter. Other things too, just in your shelter, like if you guys use padlocks on your cage, think about changing that to maybe like a carabiner clip. I mean, the concept is we don't want the dogs to be smart and open up the cages, but the visual you get with, oh, they're padlocked in, they must be really dangerous, right? And people to this day still think only bad dogs are in shelters, right? And you guys, you notice I talk a lot about dogs because cats, I feel like if you're a healthy outdoor community cat, you need to be TNR'd and back to where you belonged, right? So we need to stop kidnapping the cats that are doing fine living on my porch and coming into the shelter. Again, the more we can TNR, the more we can spay and neuter, the fewer kittens we're gonna have. We love kittens, but I would also love to never see one again, So again, the more we can spay, the less kittens. And then I do feel like cats are easier now in shelters. Like, and Monica Tarrant's here somewhere, and she's even saying like, yeah, all my shelters are like scrambling for cats for their adoption center. Like, what a great position to be in, right? And for me, I'm in the same boat. I don't always have enough cats for my adoption stores, but at the same time, I'm like, hey, everybody kick back and relax because pretty soon you'll be scooping litter boxes a lot, right? So we just need to enjoy this break, but proactively, trying to prevent homelessness and more cats from coming in. Okay, so last thing, I'm just gonna tell you guys, be brave. We get in our own way so much, right? And listen, I'm guilty of this. It's scary. It's scary to do things that are different. It's scary to try things, but here's the thing. You can do it as a pilot. You're not married to it. You can just say, we're gonna try this out, and we're gonna give it a fair shot. We're not gonna go in going, this stinks, and I don't know why anybody would do this. We're gonna give it a fair shot. Focus on your positives. We make up stories. When we don't know the answer to something, we make it up. How many times has somebody said, like, oh, I found this dog. It was used as a bait dog. Look at its teeth are worn down. Look at it's got this little injury. And I'm like, yeah, it eats rocks because it's a derp. And so it's ruined its own teeth. It's cut itself on whatever. But people, again, we make up stories when we don't know the answer. Your public will do the same thing. So that's what you have to tell your own message. Communicate, and even if people are, they proclaim to be upset, it doesn't mean that you're doing the wrong thing, right? Everybody's got an opinion, so that's why we don't ask for opinions. We kind of just tell people, this is what we're doing. Tell your own story. And don't overcomplicate. You get out of your own way. There are some free training resources online. These are a couple of good ones. Maddie's University. There's so many different classes you can take. It's go at your own speed, all free. Everything from like lost dog prevention, starting kitten fosters, bottle babies, whatever you need, it's there. And then also Petco Love Lost, they've got a really good workbook on how to try to get these dogs back to their homes where they should be in the first place. And if anybody has any questions, you are welcome to always reach out to me anytime. Really appreciate you. Perfect. That's it.
Does anybody in the audience have any questions for Cameron? Okay.
Can you go back one straight real quick?
Yes.
So, I absolutely agree with the marketing versus adoption counseling. One of the times that I really feel that we struggle with that is we are a first come, first serve facility. So how do I teach the staff to balance that, where first come, first serve doesn't necessarily mean they have that right to that animal, but to still encourage the counseling?
Well, one thing I think about is how many people do you actually turn down, right? Are we turning down a lot of people? Or, because to me, if you walk up and you seem great and you want to adopt, let's just make it happen. I shouldn't be like, oh, let me see what the next person, if they're going to be even better, right? I think for the most part, most people are good. And so, and if that second person came in and said, that's the one I wanted, we'd be like, great, here's 20 more that are just like them, right? So, I don't know if that answered your question, but I just feel like if you aren't you shouldn't be turning down a lot of people. I mean, like that would be statistically weird.
We don't turn out. I think it's more of a knowing the animals that we have. We have animals who obviously because of history not being that area. Somebody comes in and had a 10-year-old.
Well, also, I think people are different, and I think I was a perfect 10-year-old. I think my neighbor's 10-year-olds are, they're scary, right? So people are different, and I think we need to allow people, if they feel comfortable, do trial runs, right? Like do foster, like a slumber party, or a trial adoption. And because to be honest with you, what these animals are showing us in the shelter does not always correlate with what's happening in the home. Yeah.
Probably have time for one more question, if anybody has questions.
I'll be here all day if anybody wants to.
Yeah, just tackle Cameron later. Looks like we're getting ready for lunch, so we can break and go grab some grub.